and you will not accept the kettling.
Short sentences. Short sentences.
He's not the Messiah, he's a very naughty boy.
I've always wanted to say, we are all individuals. And all of us very naughty boys and girls. But to be serious, what is happening here today is a culmination of dreams. That many people all over the world have worked towards from Cairo to London. What we face today is a systematized destruction of the rule of law. People are being laundered through Guantanamo Bay to obey the rule of law. And money is being laundered through the Cayman Islands and London to obey the rule of law. This movement is not about the destruction of law. It is about the construction of law.
Go Julian!
Thank you.
Minimize the federal government. When you have big state government, small federal government, our voices are heard at the local level. We can make differences. A whole continent wide cannot control a federal government with a banking system that prints money like it's paper. You can't even call it money anymore. Gold is money. Silver is money. Green dollars are not money. They're using inflation as a hidden tax to fuck the people. Prices go up. Do your wages go up? No. My wages didn't go up, but prices went up. Gas goes up, milk goes up, trains go up. How am I supposed to live? And this is all because our government prints too much money, starts too much wars, so they can sell their tanks, their guns, their missiles, because that's all America exports. Is guns, missiles, and tanks. That's it. We need to bring production back to America. And the Federal Reserve. And the fractional banking system. When you invest $100 in a bank, they multiply that by 9 and they send it out 9 different ways. They don't just make money on the initial investment, they make it 9 times.
Good evening and welcome to Hardfire. I am your host, Joseph Dobrian, here with you for another half hour of discussion of politics and current events from a libertarian perspective. My guest this evening is Fred Benenson, the president of Free Culture at NYU, which is a student club at New York University that is part of an international movement for copyright reform and free culture advocacy. So, Mr. Benenson, I'm going to start just by asking you to define your terms, which is what we libertarians always ask people to do. What is free culture and why are you for it?
That's a great question, and I think it's a pretty general term. First kind of notable use of it for me was a book by a law professor named Lawrence Lessig. He wrote a book called Free Culture. And it's kind of a call to arms about how copyright law and the law in general and technology can be used to prevent creative uses of culture and remixing and a read-write culture. Since then, there's been a student movement, which I'm a part of, but then there's also the kind of general free culture movement. There's been an attempt to define what free culture actually is, and if you actually go to the website freedomdefined.org, you can find a definition of free cultural works.
Okay. Now, let me ask you about the need for copyright reform. A lot of people would say that we've got to have copyright laws to protect intellectual property. Do you agree with that, or do you believe that copyright laws should be gotten rid of entirely?
Well, I think my favorite way of answering that question is to think about the original intent of copyright as written into the U.S. Constitution. The Constitution says, I'm paraphrasing, but essentially we should have things like copyright and laws to protect, not to protect artists and creators, but to promote the progress of science and arts. So most people just see that as giving incentives to creators. The idea that if we do that and we give them limited monopoly rights over the work that they create, that's going to kind of or encourage people to make more copyrighted work and kind of help grow the creative work of America, which is true. But the other half of the equation is that copyright was also meant to enlarge the...
Rob is particularly interested in intellectual property law and is also interested in exploring a potential career in litigation. Congratulations.
Thank you, Ardeen. And now I'd like to call on Professor Greg Hagan of the Faculty of Law to introduce Richard Stallman. Nothing about intellectual property.
I'm no longer going to use those terms. Mr. Stallman founded the Free Software Foundation and developed a form of free software that everyone has the freedom to copy, redistribute, and alter as they see fit. Today, the GNU Linux system is used on tens of millions of computers. From a legal point of view, Stallman pioneered the concept of copyleft, which is the idea that anyone who redistributes software with or without changes must pass along the freedom to further copy and change it. He has authored several copyleft licenses, which should be of interest to lawyers, including the GNU General Public License, the world's most popular free software license. Mr. Stallman has received the Association for Computing Machinery's Grace Hopper Award, a MacArthur Foundation Fellowship, the Electronic Frontier Foundation Pioneer Award, and the Takeda Award for Social Economic Betterment, as well as several honorary doctorate degrees. I counted 7. I'm pleased to introduce Richard Stallman.
Well, if I were the kind of speaker who's constantly changing his views, I might need a pseudo-podium, but I think I won't pay much attention to this podium. Since you're not all from the free software community, I had better start with a brief introduction to what free software is all about, and then I can present the actual topic. Free software means software that respects the user's freedom. So it's free in the sense of freedom, not necessarily zero price. We're not even talking about price. It's too bad the English language doesn't have a word that clearly translates libre. In French, if you say logiciel libre, people know that you're not talking about price. But in English, the best word we've got is free, so I have to tell you, think of free speech, not free beer, to understand the meaning of the word free in the combination free software. You see, our society teaches people to judge programs solely based on practical convenience, to ask, how easy to use is it? How reliable? How efficient? What does it cost? And to ignore more important, deeper questions like, if I use this program, what does it do to my freedom? What does it do to my community? But these questions, ethical rather than short-term practical questions are what the free software movement is concerned with. A program that's not free is non-free software, proprietary software, user subjugating software. These programs keep users divided and helpless. Divided because every user is forbidden to share them, and helpless because the users don't get the source code, so they can't change the programs, they don't control what the programs do, they can't even study and check what those programs are really doing to them. And many developers put in malicious features to do things like spy on the users, restrict the users, intentionally restrict them, and even to attack them, like backdoors. In fact, some proprietary programs have all three of these kinds of malicious features. For instance, Microsoft Windows. Microsoft Windows and Mac OS 10 have such gross, disgusting backdoors that in fact their developers have the power to forcibly change the software in any way at any time, and they don't have to ask the user before they do that. So what you can see is, once the developer has some unjust power, the developer is likely to use that power to get more power, and the end result of that process is total power over the user and his computer. So that's what it is that the free software movement is against, letting the developer have power over the users. So a program is free software if you, the user, have the four essential freedoms. Freedom 0 is the freedom to run the program as you wish. Freedom 1 is the freedom to study the source code of the program and then change it to make the program do what you wish, so that this way you decide what computing you're going to do. You are in control instead of the developers being in control. Freedom 2 is the freedom to help your neighbor. That's the freedom to make and distribute exact copies of the program when you wish. And freedom 3 is the freedom to contribute to your community. That's the freedom to make and distribute copies of your modified versions when you wish. So if you have all four of these freedoms, the program is free software because the social system of its distribution and use is an ethical system, one that respects users' freedom and the user's community.